Welcome to the Pat Mayo Hour. We are talking UFC, specifically the DFS side of Fight Night Berlin. I am really going to struggle with pronouncing any of the names on this card, Cody Safdie.
Well, we're going to see lots of Europeans. I believe just one American fighter on this card, which I believe is the least amount of Americans who have ever appeared on a UFC card ever.
And when we were going through it, you told me this before, and I went through it. I started trying to guess who the Americans were, and it turned out it was a name that wasn't even written on the page.
The
names that were provided for me were already incorrect. That's not helping my cause.
Well, producer A-Rap almost dropped the ball early, but don't worry. Mistake fixed.
Every time you hear me mispronounce someone's name, as you know, you're going to hear the... You're going to get a laugh. You're going to be able to make fun of me. I'll have a few laughs with it myself, but there's going to be a lot of them.
Well, we'll see.
Maybe some double ups, too.
I think you're up for the task, but we'll see how it plays out.
I mean, the one I'm starting with is just horrible to begin with. So, UFC Fight Night Berlin, Countermove, DraftKings picks, DFS side, and a little bit of gambling as well. But, I mean, I'm not going from main event to scrub event. I'm going with the things that stick out to me as mispricing between the sites. So this is fight number one. We have, oh, my God, Peter Holman.
Piotr.
So that's wrong.
Yeah, it's not Peter.
I thought I'd just go for Peter because it's spelled so weird.
Yeah, he's a Polish fighter.
Versus, oh, my God, Magomed Mustafa.
Yeah, Magomed Mustafaev.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah, that was actually pretty
I'm winning
close.
this one. And here's the thing.
Yes.
On Countermove, on DraftKings, they're about the same, 9,900 and 9,500. On Countermove, Holman is a substantial favorite at 54, and Mustafaev is 4,200. What's the deal?
Mustafaev's, honestly, I'd like to say he's the better fighter, and he's got pretty good credentials coming into his UFC debut. I think it's just a hard draw for him that he got Holman, someone who has 4 fights in the UFC and has fought, upper echelon competition. In his last fight against Gleison Tibau, I thought he took him right to the end, and even though I had money on Tibau, I thought Holman won. He ended up losing a split decision. So what I'm trying to get at here is that he's actually quite a talented fighter. This is a pass, in my opinion, simply because I don't think... I think either guy's got a chance to win this fight, and I think it's going to be a grinding affair. Mustafaev, is better on the ground, I'd say, but he likes to go for leg locks, and I just don't think leg locks is the way to go about it in a situation like this. Holman, good grappler as well. I'm kind of leaning towards him to win this fight. I don't really see value on either ends of it.
Not even at 4,200 on Countermove? Like, that's like scrub pricing.
It's scrub pricing, but I found on Countermove there's other people that are very cheap. So we'll get at some of those later, but you can get guys like Merabak Taisumov for $4,700. I mean, that screams good value as well. Now, I may not have necessarily gone with him, but there is some very good value on Countermove as opposed to DraftKings.
Makwan Amirkhani.
Pretty close, Amirkhani, but I mean, that was pretty close.
That's my hard A. I'm from the East Coast of Canada. That's how I say it. So that's right. Versus Mayo Fullen.
Yeah.
Now, these ones are flip-flop. So Amirkhani is 10-6 on DraftKings, Fullen 8-8 on DraftKings. But then it's reversed. It's 5,200 for Fullen on Countermove and only 4,400 for your boy and your bet of the week.
Yeah.
He's $4,400 on Countermove. His betting odds are minus 240. He's one of the biggest favorites on this card. Fuck's going on?
Well, the real problem here is that he's a wrestler. He's a Finnish wrestling champ. Not the greatest Finnish wrestler, but somebody who competed at a relatively high level in not his native Finland. I believe he's originally from I think Afghanistan.
Okay.
But regardless of where he's from, yeah, he's now living in Finland, now living in Sweden, sorry. But he wrestled at a pretty high level in Finland. He comes out in his UFC debut. He has never knocked out an opponent ever. He runs across the ring. He throws a flying knee. He knocks out his opponent in about 10 seconds. So everyone's like, oh my God, this is a must-have guy. No, we got to remember here that he's not a knockout fighter. He's a wrestler. He's a wrestler who will look for submissions if he's able to. If you see Amirkhani, he looks like a model. There's pictures of him online, and you're just like, wow, who's that guy? He dresses the part.
Did he give you a chub, or at least a quarter chub?
I would assume that a quarter of the people that watch his fights got a chub. And he's got a video online where he's eating an apple, and the original video had millions of views, right? And then it got taken down and got re-uploaded, and now the new one has like a couple 100,000 views. Right? He's just eating an apple. On Tapology, the picture of him on everyone's picture, it's either them covered in blood or them, hitting somebody. His picture is him lounging with 4 beautiful blonde women, right? Wearing such a deep cut in his shirt, right? And just with poker chips on the table, and he's real relaxed. I'm like, wow, who is this guy? No idea.
And he's a guy you're taking.
Yeah.
4,400 is like steal of the year then.
The UFC realized, okay, we can market this guy. He's marketable. He's really funny. He won $50,000, and they were like, what are you going to do with the money? He's like, buy my mom a bed because she never had a bed. She's always slept on a couch, right? Just a funny guy and marketable. In the UFC, they don't want a guy like that to lose. So they're giving him Mayo Fullen. Mayo Fullen, 4-0 as a pro boxer. He's a Taekwondo black belt. But all I'm getting at there is that he's a stand-up guy. He prefers to stand up. Amirkhani, he might come out with a flying knee again, but I would assume that once the going gets tough for him, he's going to take this fight to the ground and look for the submission. I like Amirkhani certainly on Countermove for $4,400. I think that's a must-have almost. I'm not really feeling it on DraftKings. He's a little too much expensive for my taste. I think that there's a couple better options, but for $4,400, I cannot go wrong with
It's
that.
kind of crazy. He's one of the cheapest players on Countermove and one of the most expensive on DraftKings.
Yeah, and in terms of his
it.
betting line, he's one of the biggest favorites on the card because there's a lot of pick'em fights.
Okay, so next fight. Taylor Lapilus. So, fuck me. Versus Ulka Sasaki.
Ulka. And to be honest, that's not really his name, but yeah, his real name is Yuta, but they've been calling him Ulka. So
I get it right?
Did Ulka Sasaki? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the pronunciation good on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
So it's 8,600 versus 10,800, but they're the same on Countermove.
Yeah.
What's up with Countermove?
Yeah, Countermove, I think they want you to fit more people in. Because the thing is, if I told you, Pat, you can take the 5 best people you want.
Who are the 5 greatest fighters of all time? I would just stack my team with Dylon. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, Dylon, he spits hot fire. How
does.
can you go wrong there? You're in a situation where if you can take the 5 best players that you want, right, you're not going to win. You need to get those people like Patrick Williams last weekend, who's like, he's a wrestler and he'll grind him and he gets a submission in the first
full
round.
disclosure, we lost for the first time in like 7 weeks. We had a real bad run last week.
You know what? I want a heads up and Countermove and DraftKings I did better because I had Verdum and Kane.
Yeah.
But did not a good week.
No, not a good week. So back to this.
But back to this. You're always going to have those people that are like, they scored big and I didn't expect it. This is a situation where if Countermove allows you to take whoever you want, you're going to blow it. DraftKings, you can take 2 good people, then you need some cheap people and a mid-pack person. There's a lot more being creative. There's a lot more picking someone who you believe is going to lose, but you think is worth the value. Countermove, the value is either crazy or you can afford whoever you want. I could take a guy like Amirkhani, who I would have taken, say he was $4,600, $4,700, I still would have paid for him. So if I can save that money, now I can afford to take more expensive people.
Yeah, the high-end player. So Sasaki is minus 285. Believe that is the biggest favorite on the card.
Next to the main event.
And they're equivalent prices on Countermove. So do you load up there?
Yeah, I put Yuta Sasaki or Ulka Sasaki on both of my cards on DraftKings and Countermove. Young kid, only 25 years old, but my God, the grappling prowess on this guy is unbelievable, and he's extremely, extremely fast. And he wrestled at a fairly high level in Japan. His name Japan. So coming into this situation against Taylor Lapilus is from France. MMA is actually banned in France. So so a lot of these guys, they have to find other places to go, and the training I don't think is the highest level. He is also a grappler. In his fights, he prefers to use the grappling exchanges. In his UFC debut against Rocky Lee, he was able to do that, get the fight to the ground and out-grapple him. Against Sasaki, I just don't see it happening. Now, Sasaki's 1-1, but if you look at his respective UFC career, he fought a black belt in jiu-jitsu in his first fight, and he choked him out in a minute. In his second fight, he was choked out by a third-degree black belt. So it's like, you know what I mean? He gets these grapplers, and he can't beat the best of them, it appears, but he can beat that black belt is still a very high level. Against Lapilus is not that level. I think Sasaki takes him down. I think Sasaki chokes him out. I think Sasaki finishes him within 1 or 2 rounds, and therefore I want him on DraftKings and Countermove because we're trying to get that finish.
That's a big-time scorer.
It would be.
That sounds like a centerpiece core player if you're going to build cash.
Yeah, and he's expensive, so it was okay if I got to pay the price for someone I think is going to do well.
But on Countermove, he's not that expensive.
$4,800 was it? Yeah, I noticed the same thing. I was like, this is great. I can get Amirkhani and Yuta Sasaki. I'm happy with that.
Next fight. This is a fun one. Taisumov. There's a big X versus Alan Patrick. Nailed it.
Yeah, you did.
So, what was it? Maribek?
Maribek
is 10-1 on DraftKings. Patrick's 9-3 on Countermove, or on DraftKings as well. On Countermove, Patrick is the favorite at 49, and it's $4,700 on the other side. The odds have the guy whose name I can't pronounce at minus 170. It would seem like he's a pretty big favorite here. No reason for him to be the underdog.
Yeah, not a big reason for him to be an underdog. He's knocked out his last 2 opponents, both in around that 1 minute mark. Or sorry, both in the first round anyways. And has luck against Marcin Bandel, just absolutely smoked this guy out of the water. And against Anthony Christodoulou, same thing, smokes this guy out of the water. So I think a lot of people are going to want to try to get him. On DraftKings, I think he's too expensive. It's just, I can't can't really justify paying that amount unless he's flat out going to get that knockout. On Countermove, he's a little more affordable, so someone that you could definitely fit into your lineup. This is a real question mark fight to me because if Merabak Taisumov wins, he's likely going to knock him out in empathetic fashion, probably fairly quickly. Therefore, he would score a lot of points. If he loses this fight, he's going to be held against the cage the entire time, possibly get taken down, grind it out, and he will score nothing. I'm sort of leaning towards that he gets taken down and grinded and controlled. I only say that because Alan Patrick, a fighter who is undefeated, in his fight against John McDessie, who is a very credible striker, he's able to push him up against the cage, hold him there, get him to the ground. Try to get him to the ground as many times as possible. He trains under a fighter by the name of Ronaldo Jacare Souza, who's just known in the UFC for being a fantastic jiu-jitsu player, and he's a jiu-jitsu-based guy. So I always say this, when you have a striker versus grappler, the striker could score huge if he can keep the fight standing. If he can't keep the fight standing, he's not going to score very well at all. And you look back at a fight against a guy named Michel Prazeres.
It sounds like a woman.
Yeah, well, you can call him Michael, I suppose, but if it's M-I-C-H-E-L... M-I-C-H-E-L. Now, it's not L-L-E.
So he's like Michel.
Yeah, but he's Brazilian.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thought this was an American guy.
He's another Brazilian fighter who absolutely exploits Taisumov and his ability to, I can put you against the cage, and I'll try to pull you down. Taisumov has a natural instinct of grabbing the fence, and that loses him 2 points in that fight. He ends up losing a decision 30-25. Which is ridiculous because of the 2-point deduction. So I know a lot of people are going to probably say, hey, I have to have Taisumov on my team. He's cheap on Countermove, and if he scores, he's going to score big. If he does not win this fight and he doesn't score big, he could cost you very big. So I'd prefer to go with the safer options.
Okay.
That being said, in a big game, the person with Taisumov that gets the win will have big. Or he loses, and you're done.
Is there any value in Alan Patrick?
I want to say yes because I think he's a dog.
Not on Countermove for sure.
No, not on Countermove for sure. And to be honest, I just don't think the value is there on DraftKings either. Simply because if he's going to win this fight, it's going to be a boring affair and he's not going to score big. If you want to bet him for the plus 140 in the straight betting line, then like I said, he's a dog with a chance. But I don't really think he's going to score big.
Dennis Siver versus Tatsuya Kawajiri.
Yeah, boom.
It's like Tajiri.
Tajiri missed in the face.
Oh, can you do that?
No,
that's
you
too
know
bad.
what? I don't think spitting's actually in the rules, but man, you'd be a dirtbag.
You would be a dirtbag.
I have seen it in a fight. Rico Rodriguez spit in his opponent one time.
I mean, you could almost get away with like having something in your mouth, spit in their face, and like blind them or something. Anyway, Siver 10-3 on DraftKings, Kawajiri 9-1. Yet they're the same on Countermove. Countermove is real messed up this week. I bet your Countermove team is stacked.
Try to stack it the most I possibly could. I think it's stacked, but, I always think it's stacked.
Do you like either one of these guys
I don't.
for either side? So just stay away fight?
Yeah, I don't, simply because basically the same analogy that I used for the last fight. You got a striker versus a grappler. Siver's a great striker, just known for that spinning back kick. And also he has good hands and kicks on him. He's a good, agile, quick fighter. Kawajiri's more of a grinder. Kawajiri's 37 years old. He is not the same Kawajiri that he used to be. If he was prime Kawajiri, I'd pick him over most guys in this division. But he is a 37-year-old Kawajiri who is slowing down. Siver's 36. Is not slowing down as much as Kawajiri, but he's 36. The big knock here is that Siver's been working a lot on his grappling the last couple of years, and he exploits his opponent who they can't strike with him, or if they can strike with him, he takes them down. And if he can't take them down, he's a better striker. He's good at blending that. Kawajiri is a much better grappler, and if Kawajiri takes him down, then Kawajiri's not going to score much because he's going to hold him down, and Siver's not going to score anything. So therefore, it's a pass for me.
Stay away fight. Main event.
Yeah.
I think I vaguely remember us talking about this Joanna before. And
She's my baby.
I remember butchering her last name so poorly. I'm trying to get the recall on it right now. Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Jędrzejczyk.
It was close.
You know what? You do remember it because that's how you tried to pronounce it the last time. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
All right, so say it again.
Jędrzejczyk.
Jędrzejczyk?
Yeah.
So it starts with the Y. The J is a Y sound.
Yeah.
This is weird. I don't believe this for a second.
I'm telling you.
Now, she's Polish.
You can even call her Joanna.
I'm guessing she's Polish?
Yes, correct.
So she might, in Germany, those tensions have, subsided over the years. She might get some hometown cooking here, even if it is a close fight.
I think she's absolutely going to batter Jessica Penne bad.
All right, so
it's 7-1, but I'm
thinking...
Yeah,
11-3, most expensive player, biggest odds on the card, minus 700.
Yeah.
Have her on your team.
Have her on your team. She's a 150-pound Ronda Rousey, in my opinion. Different style, obviously, but I don't want to say she's undefeatable because Claudia Gadelha will rematch at some point. It'll be a good fight, but my God, this girl is fantastic. I watch a lot of fights and go to the gym and watch fighters and analyze as much as I can. If I could build a game based on a fighter today, it'd be Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I know that sounds crazy, but I am in love with her style. Her hands, her knees, her elbows. She's so vicious standing. You try to take her down. Her takedown defense is solid. If you do get her down, she gets back up. She's aggressive. She's confident. She has it all. She's the complete package.
Do you think that's a product of her maybe weight class not being the strongest? It just
Absolutely.
makes her look a lot better than maybe she is?
Yeah, and I think Ronda Rousey's in the same situation. I think Demetrius Johnson,
Ronda
the
Rousey
flyweight
may or may
champion.
not have slept with Turtle, Cody.
Yeah, well, if he could last a minute, but according to the previews, it looks iffy if he
does.
could last the minute.
Do you think he would last longer with her in bed or in the ring with her?
Well, if you put the over-under at, what are you putting it at a minute?
7.5 seconds.
Oh, jeez. I'm going to take the... If I'm speaking on personal experience, then I would take the under.
You think double under?
Because, yeah, exactly. I don't think I could last either. But, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I think she's a beautiful girl as well and just supremely talented.
Peter Sobota.
Sabata.
Ah!
He's German.
Shit. Oh.
Technically born in Poland, now resides in Germany.
Stephen Kennedy, is that one right?
Yeah. Australian, mate.
Killing it.
Australian
Killing
Stephen
the
Kennedy.
names. Stephen Kennedy. Thanks for showing up, Stephen Kennedy. And but based on his odds, that seems to be like what they're saying too. It sounds like he's going to get slaughtered.
Yeah, he's taking the fight on 2 weeks' notice for Sergio Moraes, who had to unfortunately pull out. Stephen Kennedy, he's been around for a long time. He's got a 22-6 record. However, basically all those fights have taken place
in Australia.
Over in Australia, mate. And
was he on the Tough Nation season?
No.
Is he too old for that?
You know what? Only 32 years
he's
old.
The Danny Glover of Tough Nations MMA.
Well, they had guys on that show like Vic Gruchik who were like 36, 37 years old. So there was definitely older fighters in the house. Stephen Kennedy, maybe, I don't know, the timing didn't work out for him. But he is a tough fighter. The one issue that he has is that when he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't seem to be very great off his back. When he gets taken down, he's just okay. His takedown defense is decent. He was a freestyle wrestler, freestyle national champion up in Australia. So
is that good, though?
It's just okay, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're an American and you're a collegiate champion,
you're the
even
best in the world.
champion.
If you're a Russian Olympic wrestler, you're probably the best in the world.
Even just like a world champion or
if
anything
you're from
like
Australia, like I don't know. It's like being on the. I don't know if this would be the same. It's like when you hear like someone's on the national baseball team of Canada. They could be all right, but they're probably not great.
Well, I know guys that are Canadian national wrestling champions.
Daniel Galli?
They won freestyle. They won Greco and Roman wrestling. They are national champions in wrestling in Canada. And the conversion of their skill would be a good but not great Division I NCAA wrestler. Not a champion. Not the best guy.
They could be if they were an outlier, but you're saying the majority of them just aren't.
Yeah, exactly. So a guy like Stephen Kennedy, he's got some wrestling chops. Flip side to that, Peter Sabota, he's got some wrestling chops as well. I think he uses too much muscle in his takedowns. They're not clean takedowns, but he almost always gets the guy down if he wants him down. His kick output, this is going to be huge for me here because you're going to get half a point per significant strike, and the guy throws a lot of kicks. So he kicks. He's scoring points. He'll eventually go for that takedown. He'll get him down. Peter Sabota is also a black belt, and he's a black belt under Dean Lister, who's one of the greatest American jiu-jitsu players of all times. So I think his black belt is better than Stephen Kennedy's. I think his wrestling is better than Stephen Kennedy's. I think his striking, although maybe not better, it's the ability to throw the kicks from the range will score him more points. He'll get the fight to the ground. He could finish. Not a guarantee that he's going to finish. He could finish, but I think he's somebody worth having on your team, to be honest.
Any quick finishes you see down the card of guys that we must have, like a fight that just pops off?
Yeah, so in terms of finishes, there's not a whole lot of finishes that just completely jump up at me, but Nick Hein. Nick
Hein?
Yes, the sergeant.
Is he from Germany?
He's from Germany.
I like him.
Yes, so do I, actually. He trains full-time out of Thailand.
Do you think there's going to be a situation during the broadcast where, like, one of these German guys wins, gets all fired up with the crowd, and it gets kind of uncomfortable?
No, I hope not.
Because, you see a whole bunch of Germans getting fired up.
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
well, okay, let's pump the brakes on this just a little bit.
Well, the Dennis Siver fighter that we were talking about, he fought Conor McGregor, the gentleman on the poster behind me, and
I know him.
And Conor McGregor went on record and was just like, oh, he's just a juiced-up little Nazi. Okay. No, I would assume that that's not going to happen.
Excellent.
You never know when people get fired up with the
maybe they have Rammstein, and they are smoking in the arena.
Oh, man.
And they get all fired up with the Germans.
Someone has to come out to do Hast, right?
They have to come out to do Hast.
Come on. Great song.
So you like Hein?
Yeah, I like Hein just because he throws caution to the wind. He's not a striker per se. He's more of a grappling guy. He's a 2-time judo champion in Germany. But now that he's spending his time up in Tiger Muay Thai, he throws a lot more punches, a lot more kicks. And he's so short and stocky, he generates a lot of power with those punches. In his last fight against James Vick, he lost the fight, but he knocked him down twice in the first round. James Vick is an accomplished boxer and is absolutely tearing it up in the UFC right now. So the fact that he's able to go in there and just blast a credible opponent, doesn't get the win, but in a parallel universe, he knocks out this guy in the first round. That's scoring big for Countermove. That's scoring big for DraftKings. His opponent hasn't fought in over a year. He was
and we
signed.
saw what happened to Kane.
Exactly. He was signed within the same week as Jędrzejczyk. They both signed contracts from Poland to be with the UFC.
She's fought like 3 times.
Yeah, this is going to be her 4th fight in the promotion. He's making his debut. So maybe it's injuries, maybe it's personal troubles. Either way, he's had some time off. He's going to have ring rust. And because he's undefeated, I don't really trust undefeated guys unless the word is they're absolutely killers. Because you're going to run in
anyone that you've heard of.
And he has, but he beat one very credible opponent when that guy was 18 years old, 17 or 18.
Ariel, come in. Come in. Yes or no? This guy right here, Nick Hein, is he going to get a quick finish or not?
Quick finish. I would say decision.
Decision?
What about your boy Noad Lahad representing Israel?
Yeah, it's a tough fight. I'm actually leaning towards Nicholas Backstrom in that one.
Wow.
It is a tough one, but my heart is with Noad.
Yeah, to tell you something to that, I'm going Noad Lahad simply because this is going to be a grappling match. Nick Backstrom is a very good grappler. However, Noad Lahad, 2010 world champion in no-gi. He's also the American Kickboxing Academy no-gi jiu-jitsu coach. One problem is that he wins his last fight and then he decides to take some time off to go fight in the Israeli army.
Okay,
so
that might set you back a little bit or toughen you up. You don't know, right?
Well, I think he's going to come back with a whole bunch of Krav Maga, okay? And then, if the going gets tough, grab his nuts, twist them. That's actually an illegal move, but
he might do it anyway.
In Krav Maga, everything goes. You're fighting for your life, my friend. He's a dog with a chance here. If you like the straight money line, I think he's good on the money line. I couldn't. Well, not that I couldn't afford it. I actually think I went with him on DraftKings, $8,900. This could be a snooze fest. That's the one thing that worries me. 2 grapplers, exchanging position on the ground. I might not score big.
No fantasy points.
But if you've got one guy who's a good level jiu-jitsu player against one guy who's a great level jiu-jitsu player, then the possibility to get the submission is certainly there. So Noad Lahad, he gasses out late, but even if he wins 2 rounds, then he can still win the fight, and he could get the submission. For $8,900, I didn't mind it. On Countermove, you can afford much better people, so why bother?
Let's get to your lineups this week. DraftKings and Countermove. Let's start with DraftKings very quickly. Run me through it.
Jędrzejczyk, $11,300.
Gotta have her.
She's got the 5 rounds. She's a super stud. Yuta Sasaki, also known as Ulka Sasaki, $10,800 is expensive, but another person I got pegged to go for that finish, and that's what we want. We want the finishes. Nick Hein, $10,200. He throws pretty big. He's got a judo pedigree. He can keep the fight standing. If he keeps the fight standing, he's going to score points. If he takes the fight to the ground, he's going to score points. He's tenacious. He goes for it. I don't mind him. Now, I spent a lot of money here, so I need 2 cheap players.
We need some savings. So you went with Lahad.
Noad Lahad, he's going to be in a close fight. I think that the upside for him, that if he can get some takedowns, he can. You get points for passing on position. And in jiu-jitsu, high-level guy like that, he can pass the guard. He can get a side mount. He can move back to mount. He can take the back. He can score points. So I don't mind Noad Lahad, the AKA grappling coach, a guy who works with great people on a daily. I like him. And then finally, $8,700, Antonio Dos Santos. Bear with me on this one. I don't actually think he's going to win the fight.
Okay.
But for $8,700, he is a stand-up specialist. In his last fight against Daniel Sarafian, he showed that he is a good stand-up fighter.
So if he doesn't get knocked out right away, he's going to pile up significant strikes.
If he makes it to the 2nd or the 3rd round and he's going to be able to land a decent amount of shots on his own, then I think I like him. His last fight, he got technically TKO'd. Although, look into it. He lands, his opponent hits his hand. It breaks his finger. He calls a timeout with the referee.
You call timeout in UFC?
No, you can't. That's what screws him, because he wants to break his finger back into place. Ugh. So he breaks it, and the ref just calls it off. You can't call timeout.
Yeah, what are you doing?
So Dos Santos is not as bad as people may, appear or perceive.
Does he have a chance to win?
Yes, because he's a striker. He can definitely land that shot and knock him out. And for $8,700, I think it's worth it.
You're not going too crazy with your Countermove team off from your DraftKings team, but you do have 2 alternate players. Plus, you've kept $400 on the table to make your lineup unique.
Absolutely. Nick Hein, if I was going to switch somebody out of it, it'd be him, just simply because, not that I don't like him, but $5,200 is expensive on Countermove compared to some of the other values we're getting. But we are going Jędrzejczyk, $5,500. I like her. Nick Hine, $5,200, and Yuta Sasaki, $4,800. I think he's a must-have just because he's got some very good value.
We got
on
$4,400 with your boy.
Yeah, 44. We got Makwan Amirkhani with the $4,400. I mean, that's a must-have simply because
he's so cheap.
He's so cheap, you got to have him. And then Peter Sabota, $4,700. Again, someone who I don't think is that expensive, who could get the finish, and I think will look good. He's in front of his hometown crowd. So even if he has a tougher fight than expected, maybe they'll give him a decision and he'll score some additional points.
Did that happen last week in Mexico?
Not really. To be honest, the judges actually impressed me. They were better than I thought they would be, and they pretty much called things right on the money. A lot of people thought Gilbert Melendez won as opposed to Eddie Alvarez, but it was a close fight, and it was a split decision, rightfully so. So, hometown cooking, it is what it is. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. However, it does exist. It is real. And like you said, that saves us $400. Marbek Taisumov for $4,700. He's a coin flip, and if it lands on your side, he's going to score big. So definitely someone that you could insert in the lineup.
Cody Saftik. Check him out on the Bookie Beatdown on the Fight Network and Fantasy Sports Network. You can follow that on Twitter at Bookie_Beatdown and follow Cody at CJ Saftik. I'm Pat Mayo, and I'll see you next time.